would you have rather gotten type 1 diabetes when you were younger, or would you rather have type 1 diabetes when you're older? Now, that sounds like a very, very obvious question, right? So people would say, oh, obviously I'd like to get it when I'm older. I'd like to enjoy my life without type 1 diabetes. I would like to know what it's like to kind of eat cake with my friends, enjoy a normal birthday party, eat what I want without having to take a shot, prick myself, things like that nature. But the opposing side of that is people are saying, man, I wish I had it when I was younger. I wish that I lived a life where I didn't know an existence that wasn't something that I previously lived. So, I mean, I know I kind of said that confusingly, but what they're trying to come across is like they've lived 15, 20 years without having diabetes. They know, they know they can eat whatever and not have to do anything outside of like exercise if they want to. Excuse me. And in relation to us, people who got it when we were younger, I got it when I was 7 years old. We're so used to it. Like, this almost becomes a second nature to us. We already know to prick ourselves and take our shots, and there's nothing for us to miss. We don't miss the old life. We don't miss life before type 1 diabetes because we really don't remember it. It's just something we're used to. It's just part of our existence. But the people who get it when they're older, they miss not having to do those things and not having to do the responsibilities that come with having type 1 diabetes and living with type 1 diabetes. So I get both sides for sure. I get that, sometimes I myself wish, like, oh man, I wish I got it when I was older. Maybe I would have been a lot more mature. I would have taken this on a lot more responsibly. I would have taken control over it. Rather than when I was 7, like I said yesterday on the Instagram stories, is like, I hated it. I hated having diabetes. I resented it. I tried to pretend like I didn't have it. So much to the point where I didn't take my shot. I tried to act like if I didn't test myself or take my shot, maybe it would go away or it would forget about itself, which sounds insane. But, for the first five years of my having type 1 diabetes, it was really up and down, and mostly up. Like, my blood sugar was always high. I didn't take care of it. I didn't take it seriously. And, you might be thinking like, oh, where were your parents? Weren't they on top of it? But, I mean, there's only so much they can do. Of course they can be on top of you. Of course they can, be down your neck with these things. But, having type 1 diabetes, it really comes down to you, your decisions, and, the options and the choices that you make. Of course your parents are there to protect you and to guide you through that, but ultimately it's your life, and these are the decisions that you have to live with. And, that's why we were talking also yesterday about how diabetes kind of forces you to grow that maturity and responsibility that maybe your peers wouldn't learn until later on, because you have to now are equipped with this responsibility that you have to take care of yourself, test yourself, take a shot, take care of lows, take care of highs, be aware of your diabetes, be aware of your physical state, if you're getting dizzy, if you feel like you're getting irritated, agitated, angry, sad, depressed, whatever these things that come with being high and low and fluctuating, things like that. These are all things you have to be aware of now, and especially, learning all the stuff that comes with it. So there's definitely a maturity rate and a responsibility that comes with having type 1 diabetes. But coming back to the subject, here's the thing. It's easy to think like, man, I wish I had it this way. Man, I wish I had it one way. I wish I had diabetes when I was younger. I wish I got it when I was older. The question is, I kind of just wish I didn't have it in general, Like, of course, we can wish all these things. I could wish I was a little taller. I could wish my beard was growing out a little bit more, I wish I didn't have so much freckles. But you can't dwell on these things. You can't dwell on, wishing you were this way or that way. You can't dwell on not having diabetes or, the bluntness of it is it happened the way it happened. You can't choose those things, unfortunately. You were diagnosed when you were diagnosed, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? There's only one thing you can do about it, and that's take care of it. So whatever your age is, whatever age you're at right now, whether it be 26, 30, 40, 16 months, I don't know if you'd be having the capabilities to listen to this podcast, but let's cap it at maybe 8, 10 years old. Maybe you're as young as 10 years old. You have this new disease, not disease, you have this new illness, you're not sure of it. You're like, what's this diabetes thing? I get extra snacks when I'm low, which is pretty cool, but other than that, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what this is. Just like myself, I didn't know what diabetes was. I just know I got to have pudding when I was low, and I got a lot of Dragon Ball Z toys because all my family felt sorry for me and they thought buying me toys would help. And it kind of did, not gonna lie. But back to the fact, there's some things that we can't change, and there's some, the cards that were dealt that we can't, we can't change, or we can't, edit how we got type 1 diabetes. We just know that we have it now, right? And all we can really do is look forward. Looking back, how do you drive, right? You don't drive looking into the rearview mirror. You drive forward. So you can't, it can be easy to reflect and think, you wish you had it this way, you wish I had it that way. But the reality of it is that you have diabetes, whatever age that you got it. So I don't mean to use my name, but I chose this name because, it's a word that I truly wholeheartedly believe in. It's something that you have to embrace, right? So embrace your type 1 diabetes. Acknowledge and take ownership of whatever age you got it at, and live with it. If you're 10 years old, you have a testimony. You have a life story. You have something that you can live to your core and live and be a beacon, be an idol, not an idol, an idol. Be a beacon, be a someone that people look up to when you're older. Say, man, I got diabetes when I was 8 years old. I got it when I was 16 months old. I got it when I was 10 years old. Look at me now. The kids maybe another kid will come up to you and be like, wow, you've had diabetes for 20 years? I didn't know people lived longer than 10 years with this thing. How are you doing so well, right? How are you doing sports? How are you doing, how are you being so active? How are you going to school? How are you doing all these things? Because you have diabetes. A lot of people with diabetes can't do these things. How are you eating that cake? How are you having sugar? I thought you weren't allowed to have sugar, right? So you can be someone that people look up to and people admire in the fact that you've had it for so long, that you've had it since you were 10 years old or 16 months, right? And you're killing it. By that time, you have so much experience with type 1 diabetes. There's nothing in this world that can deter you, that can scare you. Personally, nothing in the world that scares me. Nothing. I can look a spider in the face and punch it. I can look a snake and grab it by its neck and throw it 50 yards. I fought a bear once. And lived to tell the tale. No scars, no scratches, nothing. Just fought him. We ended up having coffee later, which is kind of cool. But I was deterred from the subject. But, it's something that you can, if you truly, truly look at it in a certain way, you take ownership of it, you take, pride in the fact that you have diabetes at whatever age, at a young age, and you can live with it and stride with it, right? So that's the way I see it. I had it when I was 7, and I hate giving advice from people who don't have type 1 diabetes about type 1 diabetes. Like, I used to get advice from doctors and people who didn't have type 1 diabetes, be like, man, you gotta live with it, you gotta own it. Like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have type 1 diabetes, which is a selfish kind of small circle way to look at things, but it's human to think like that, right? So I get that. But coming from someone who's had diabetes for 17 years and lived the way of hating it and live the way of pretending it didn't exist and live with being embarrassed about it or hiding it or putting it under the sheets and not taking care of it, I can promise you and look you in the eye and tell you that life with type 1 diabetes is way better when you live like that, when you just own it and you take pride in it. You take care of your stuff and you go on with your day. You test yourself, you take your insulin dosage, you walk around the neighborhood, do your thing, and go on with your business, right? People think you have to set aside your whole life or your whole life is changed and you have to be in your room all day and not move and not do any physical activities. You got to take your shots and, cradle them. No. Prove people wrong. And now I'm speaking to the people who got it when they're older. When they're 23, 30, 40, 50, 80. Yeah, I mean, I can't super relate on a level, but I can put myself in that mind state. I met with a guy. Okay, going back to the story that I kind of touched on. When I started this thing, I was a camp counselor for the JDRF camp last year, and I met this guy. His name is Pietra, and he was a camp counselor in the same cabin as me. He was about 26 years old, and he got diabetes 2 years ago. Yeah, he got it when he was about 24. And he was telling me the story about how he was so used to just being active all the time, and he did all these sports, and so used to eating, overloading on, when he's a pretty built guy, so when you're doing those things and you're gaining weight and you're building mass, building muscle, You overload on carbs, so your muscles can eat those things and tear apart and grow based off of what you eat, which usually happens to be a lot of carbs. Rice, potatoes, things of that nature, which is normal. And he was saying like how he getting type 1 diabetes completely changed that upside down. Now he's living his life where he has to, kind of do that mental switch and kind of attack physical well-being in a different state. Doesn't mean he has to completely give up weightlifting. Doesn't mean he has to completely give up on that dream because type 1 diabetes happened. No, he just told me that he switched up his routine, and he's even thriving better at it. And it's even brought to a place, he's like a pilot. He's gotten to a place where he's met with like government officials to change the law that people with type 1 diabetes can't be commercial pilots, and he's trying to change that that quota or that law or that rule or whatever. And from what he told me, it looks like it's in motion. So not only is him getting type 1 diabetes a blessing in disguise, it's a blessing to all those other type 1 diabetic pilots who just figured that was never going to change, and now he's doing what he can to change that. So, what I'm saying is, you got diabetes for a reason, and you got it when you got it for a reason. So, not to use namesake again, but you truly just gotta embrace it at that point. You gotta, see what you got, embrace it, live with it, see the positives. You gotta see the bright sides. Yes, you have to acknowledge the negatives, but don't dwell on them too much, right? You adjust. Diabetes is all about adjustments. It's about slight adjustments. People think it's gonna change your entire life. You're gonna, do all these things, but you do. You have to adjust. You have to, adjust your lifestyle a little bit. Doesn't have to deter any of your goals, your ambitions, your dreams. If anything, you can, set a fire under beneath them. So, moral of the story is, whether you got type 1 diabetes at 16 months old or you got it at 40, embrace whatever age you got it at. Roll with the punches, make those adjustments, and don't dwell too much on how you wish you didn't have it, or how you wish you got it when you were younger, or how you wish this, how you wish that. You can spend all day doing those things, right? But if you don't have the action, and you don't have the, the means to get up and, prove people wrong, or prove yourself wrong, then, what are you doing, right? So, thank you guys again for watching. We will see you next time. 3, 2, 1, over.